The second topic under discussion is societal and environmental factors in a learning setting. Societal factors. Societal means pertaining to large social groups or to their activities, customs, etc. So basically, societal is connected or related to a large social groups and how that social group interact. Members of that group interact in terms of their customs and in terms of their norms and values, their activities, their very way of life. The societal factors are influenced by these social factors or these social groups in a given society and in a given community, and they do affect the learning processes. So the activities of these large social groups, they play a very effective role in determining the learning processes. Learning environment refers to the diverse physical location, contexts, and cultures in which learners learn or students learn. So by having the understanding of societal factors, we really need to see that how these societal factors act in a learning community and how the learners get influenced by their activities or by the practices of the members of these social groups. This takes us to classroom climate, which is seen as the intellectual, social, emotional, and physical environment in which learning takes place. So a learning setting in this context especially, we see the learning setting is classroom, and the classroom has the environment which facilitates intellectual output on the part of a student or a learner, as well as social interaction with his or her colleagues or other learners or other members of classroom, how he or she gets rewarded or reinforced. That's emotional learning processes. And physical environment, the setting of the classroom. Is it conducive? It is the way the chairs are placed, the way the whiteboards or other materials are placed in that particular learning setting. So all these have a very great, very crucial impact on the learning processes of a learner. Societal factors have been introduced and have been pointed out by a number of researchers, and here we will see the most dominant societal factors introduced by Praveen and Richards. So first of all, let's see the societal factors as proposed by Praveen. The first is social change. Now, by social change, we mean any type of change that affects one's living, any social change which can be seen from a different group that has been introduced. For example, nowadays, you see there's influx of technology, and because of frequent changes, we can expect more amazing changes in science, lifestyle, economy, education, and all that. So social changes affect that. Transmission of culture. This is another part where we see that through technology or through the introduction of second language, you see the second language culture also needs to be introduced, and then that culture is transmitted with its own beliefs and norms and ideas. Social problem can be an issue, which means unemployment, inflation, population issues. They can be also addressed in terms of integrating them as a part of any curriculum which is designed for a learning setting. Economic issues is another factor which is seen as a contributing societal factor. That is the kind of infrastructure or in the academia or in the learning needs financial support, or new teaching materials are required, updating of the textbooks or labs or resources that can be seen under the economic issues. Technology is again the new technological advancement that are happening in the world needs to be brought to the learning environment. Home and family, that is, the family exerts significant influence on the social, emotional, and moral development of a child. Her personality and values are affected by the family. So when we are planning any learning situation or material, we must inculcate the awareness of home conditions of learner. Then again, the technology needs to be updated, has to be integrated in the learning setting. Diversity is the different social classes that learners come from. They also affect the learning process. Again, environment, political factors can be the role of the politics in terms of how the political groups become a pressure group or influence the academics or the policies in the academia. And also people belonging to different religion, how they would like their religious background or values be inculcated in their learning setting. The societal factors from Richards are more or less the same, but specifically they have the policy makers in the government. They play a very important role in terms of determining the curriculum. Educational and other government officials, how they design policies by playing their role in the government and also in the academia. Any other employees of the organizations and the business community as well, they determine the kind of product they need to employ in their business community. The business community is basically a potential employer, so they provide feedback to the academia, the requirement they would like to have in terms of what they would like to see in their graduates, the skills, the intellectual ability. Politicians, again, the political factors. Tertiary education specialists are the ones who would determine the kind of education which needs to be given at the post-secondary level. And then home, parents, citizens, and the students. That students as a whole, a social group, how they affect the learning setting. So these are the societal factors that have been introduced and proposed by these two researchers. Environmental factors. To determine environmental factors, understanding of learning environment is important. Learning environment refers to the diverse physical condition, context, and culture in which students learn. So basically, physical condition that constitute the whole of environmental factor. The term also encompasses the culture of a school or class. So when we are talking about physical conditions, we are referring to a school and a class, as well as the ways in which teachers may organize an educational setting to facilitate learning. So the term encompasses everything that takes place in a classroom or in a school, where the teacher is responsible for introducing material and also in terms of facilitating learning, the ways that he or she adopts to facilitate the process inside the classroom by adjusting the setting, by adjusting the textbook materials, equipments, and all these resources. The key thing is that the learner should be provided with the environmental support to come up with the desired result or to produce with the desired result. Societal factors determine the kind of learning that takes place, but the physical conditions determine the progress of the learning skills of the learner. So all these factors that constitute environmental factors need to be addressed accordingly, and the teacher provide environmental support to the learner. Now, how that environmental support can be given to a learner, I'm going to discuss that. You can see that learner has characteristics in terms of the goal, prior knowledge of a learner, if he or she is digital natives, diversity, the kind of social background he or she comes from, and the learning context. So these are the learner characteristics. Then the assessment, how the learner is assessed in terms of project, e-portfolios, tests, essays, and then you have the resources that are introduced to a learner through technology, how facilitation is done, assistants are provided, and how that time is given to learner, which is his or her time. Then the support is given through other students, feedback, scaffolding, which is providing assistance, counseling. In terms of skills, thinking activities, discussions, skills goals, and practical activities. Then you have content, that the goal of content, the learning goal of the content, the sources used for that material. Content basically is material. The structure, how that material is structured to be introduced or to be practiced in the learning setting. Quantity and depth, how much depth is required on the part of learner to understand that content and the kind of activity. So these all things are there to provide environmental support to the learner. To conclude, the societal factors in learning settings are influenced by the values and beliefs of the large social groups, and environmental factors are the identifiable physical factors that contribute effectively in the learning process.